Hi, welcome back to the Law&Crime Network. I am Kenney Baden. I am your afternoon host for What a Day We Have here at the Law&Crime Network. Can you imagine having your brother testify that you confessed, I shot him? I'd like to bring my guest in, Joseph Scott Morgan. You know him well. He is an amazing death investigator. We go to him because he's the go-to guy. And he and I, believe it or not, even though I do a lot of defense, we agree a lot. Right, Joe?
Yes, we do, Linda.
Joe, let me just ask you a question before I bring our next guest in. First of all, you're an author. What's the name of your book?
My book is called Blood Beneath My Feet, The Journey of a Southern Death Investigator.
Okay,
I was the 2013 Georgia Author of the Year.
Okay, Georgia Author of the Year. That'll be helpful when we get to Rosenbaum. But also, so here you have a young lady, okay? You get to the scene as a death investigator, right? You see the father who is executed in the back of his head, the mother who is in the driveway, and then you learn, Joseph, that the daughter has admitted to her brother that she shot them. What do you do as a death investigator?
Well, first off, it's like any case as a death investigator, our highest level of tolerance for us is homicide. So we start off by investigating every death. I don't care if it is, I tell my students at Jacksonville State, I don't care if it's an 80-year-old grandma that's passed away peacefully in her sleep, apparently. We treat every death as a homicide. So everything is locked down. And that way we're not going to lose anything from Jump Street. At that point in time, we can begin to move forward, you know, kind of whittling away everything that doesn't appear to be having connectivity to something else, perhaps.
Okay, so let me bring my second guest in, also a trial lawyer now in Georgia. I talked with Jason Sheffield. Here he is. This year, we taught the defenders in Georgia when we talk about Rosenbaum later on. Jason, you're also an author. Yours is Son of a Bee. I won't say it, and it's a crime novel. But, you know, you've looked at crime from the false and the true. Okay, so you have a young woman here who now has admitted to her brother that she shot the family and she killed them. What do you do if you think that the crime scene is perfect? Do you suggest that maybe she has insanity issues, or do you wait for the evidence to come to you? And if so, how?
Good afternoon to both of you. You have to start doing both immediately. As a defense lawyer, where you know that your client has confessed to the act, then there's no question about that confession, unless, of course, it was coerced or it was filled with other wrongdoing. But assuming it was not, then you have to try to understand why she did the act. And here, the big question is, did she do it as a result of mental incapacity? Did she do it just for cold-blooded revenge of the abuse by her mother and stepfather? That you have to investigate. You have to go back in time. You have to look at almost her entire life and begin to try to fill in the spaces and see how the evidence weighs up. Does it support battered child syndrome? Does it support that she's had an undiagnosed history of schizophrenia for most of her life? Does it support that she's just angry and vengeful?
Wow. Okay, so let's see. Let's add to the piece of the puzzle, because Joseph Carey, Nicole Nachtman's brother, continued to speak with her. Now, when you listen to him, I want you to listen in the way that we know now that there was mental illness in the family, in that one of the parents committed a suicide, and that also there was tragedy in the family, that the other brother died in a car accident. So listen by the glasses of we see this history of the family. Listen to what he asks her. Florida versus Nicole Nachtman, that is unbridled, tears coming out. And I would say to both of my guests, Jason Sheffield from Georgia, I think love is coming out also in those tears in some way, because he wants to help his sister, knowing that she shot and killed the stepfather and the mom.
Sure, there's unbelievable conflict here for this brother. It's obviously a family that has a lot of history, a lot of water under the bridge that is relevant to his sister and what she has suffered through. His immediate acknowledgement was about the conflict that she felt. If you listen to what he said, she told him that she had to do it. She told him that she did not think she could do it. That is the essence of the conflict in a mentally ill person's head, where they are being instructed to do something. And for him, he seems to understand that there is a tough history there, although he doesn't understand it completely. but he's now caught in the middle of loss and love between his mother being shot and killed and his sister who's on trial for the murder.
Joe Scott Morgan, this reminds me of a case I had as a prosecutor in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where a doctor had a schizophrenic daughter and actually hid her in the closet for something like 19 or 20, 21 years, whatever. And one day she escaped the closet and she killed them. She stabbed them in the back to death. And the family, of course, wanted insanity, and so we ended up actually trying it to a judge who we knew would find that the girl was insane. I'm getting a lot of the same feeling here, but as a death investigator, do you look to see if there's any type of conflict, like possible attempts to do this beforehand, and then she would come back and do it to show that she really thought it out, or what? Or do you just say, I'm just doing the evidence, you know, that's it?
Yeah, I try. We hopefully try to be as objective as possible so we can put all of the pieces together, particularly from a scientific perspective. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be an influencer relative to the investigation going forward. You know, what's her general affect like? What's her attitude like in her day-to-day life? I think that the brother, you know, you said a mouthful when you saw the emotion that was coming out in this brother. He was like, you know, what? He's talking to his uncles. What are we going to do? And they came to the conclusion, we're going to help her. You know, we're going to help her in this case. Just don't say anything. Just wait, call an attorney. And so you have to couple those two things. But from an investigative standpoint, we can't take sides. Hopefully we don't. And that we're going to remain as objective as possible and try to put this puzzle together because it's highly complex.
Well, you know what, guys? We have to go to a break. But when we come back, we will have more of the cross-examination of the brother of Nicole Nachtman. And we'll also be monitoring the Grand Amato trial. And we are in verdict watch in the Rosenbaum case. Stay with us at the Law&Crime Network. Okay, so that's some of the beginning of cross-examination. Now, the defense has been very animated in this case, and as you know, I love animated attorneys. The actual public defender gave the opening. Now we have Dana Hersey on cross. So let me bring my guests back in to discuss this. When a defense attorney, Jason Sheffield in Georgia, shows that they believe in a client, does it help convey that to the jury, or do you think you should be a little bit more professorial?
I think you need to do both because you need to earn the trust. You need to be credible, but there are moments where you absolutely have to advocate with passion, and a jury expects that. That carries over into their hearts and their minds when they decide who they're going to believe as the presenters of the trial. And right now, I think in that clip you just showed us, the defense lawyer is doing a fabulous job of bringing out these facts that are very, very compelling.
And Joseph Scott Morgan, I kind of like it when both sides believe in their case. Now, let me just point one thing out to you here, and I absolutely wrote it down. In some of the discussion about whether or not Nicole had a mental disease or defect, she didn't wash, she didn't take care of herself. I mean, you know that the brother just said he saw changes. Now, you know as a death investigator that schizophrenia affects young people. It starts showing up not when they're 7 or 8, but as they get into teens or in their middle 20s. So you're a defense investigator now. Forget being on the state. What do you do as a defense investigator to help this case show the jury that she just had this psychotic break?
Oh my God, the histrionics in this case are the key. And hey, going to the testimony that the brother was just giving, defense is probing him relative to this familial history. You left home, you ran away, you had a brother that joined the military.
Schools your sister went to?
This ties back completely to this young lady. She begins manifesting with this, and I think that you can begin to see this thread, Linda, that appears in her life that goes back all of these years. And maybe there's some grounding here relative to this abuse that's being alleged that took place in the family, and it just pushed her over the edge, particularly if you couple this with this psychopathology that she was experiencing.
Oh my God, when you guys talk psychopathology and defense cases, it just gets me going. So let's listen to more about what the brother wanted to do for his sister, even though he knew that she had cold-bloodedly killed the stepfather and the mother. Let's listen to more of the cross. Okay, so this is the brother on cross-examination. Now, Joe Scott Morgan and Jason Sheffield, you are working now for the prosecution, and you're hearing this cross about liposuction, but it's not really liposuction cross. It's a mother who's being like, I don't really like my daughter, what she looks like, what she wears, what she is, who she is, and she's being abused mentally, and we hear that and we know it exists. What do you do as a prosecution to now change that frame, as I call it? Jason, first.
Well, you've got what's unfolding is a modern day mommy dearest, where you've got a mother who apparently, through the eyes of his son, is so compelled to change her daughter and everything about her outwardly, and you know that's infecting her on the inside and her emotions. Here, as a prosecutor, there's really nothing you can do to stop this witness from saying those things. It's a bit of a train wreck that they called this witness in terms of what's unfolding now with the defense cross-examination. What they're going to have to do, though, is say, but even though those things existed, they did not damage her to the point that she developed a mental illness. What those things did is it made the daughter simply hate her mother and want to kill her mother.
Wow. Joe Scott Morgan, Mommy Dearest, was a book written by the adopted daughter of a woman named Joan Crawford, a famous actress back early on, for people that don't know. And she talked about the abuse her mother gave her. So do you agree with Jason, or do you do something differently?
I don't know. I don't know how you get past this idea of unnecessary surgeries. That's I'm struck by this. I didn't know. I'm cold to this. I had no idea that this statement was going to be made. Right now I'm just trying to pick up my jaw because I'm amazed that she compelled this child to get this surgery, her child to get this surgery. It's striking to me. And boy, talk about motivations. I don't know how the prosecution gets past this, because I think this witness is a detriment to their case. My gosh, you don't know what's going to happen when you open the spigot up. In this case, I think that some information freely flowed here about the inside of this family, the inner workings.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have to stay at the Law and Crime Network, because we're going to have more of the brother on cross-examination and look at Family Day here at the Law and Crime Network, because, boy, you never know what secrets a family has. So Joseph is giving the defense attorney the answers that when the girl got home, Nicole, the mother greeted her with every mother's greeting. What the F, right? So Jason Sheffield, you made a comment in break about middle schools and this woman and the defense. Tell me about it.
So the defense is doing a great job of pointing out very early history of what appears to be the signs of developing mental illness, the developing of disturbed mental processes, and all of that on a timeline for the defense is very important, because it sort of represents undiagnosed mental history. The state, though, is going to want to do something with that. And in my opinion, they will probably come back up on direct examination and perhaps try to establish that some of these behaviors that he's talking about, introverted, changing in the way you dress, being quiet, escapism kind of behavior, drawing, that those are typical behaviors associated with young girls who are just starting to enter into middle school as they begin to develop and begin to grow.
Well, let's see more of this cross-examination, and let's see if the defense can elicit from Joseph more that will help them to overrule what Jason thinks the prosecution is going to do. So that is Joseph Carey. He is the brother to Nicole Nachtman, who is on trial for a double homicide, double murder. The prosecution would say, Joe Scott Morgan, my death investigator, my go-to death investigator, you have seen many death scenes and many killings. Love kills. Family love kills even more, doesn't it, Joseph?
Yes, it does. You're at a greater danger with those that you surround yourself with in your center core, your familial circumstances. Listen, the media paints it out to be that we should be afraid of dark alleys and strangers. You should be afraid of who you break bread with, because more than likely that's who would perpetrate a crime like this. It just stands to reason. You have, there's more grief, there's more friction, there's more opportunity to run afoul of somebody in your family. In this particular case, this really happened, and boy, she really burned it to the ground.
Boy, let me tell you, Family Day at the Law and Crime Network. When we come back, because we have to take a quick break, we will be discussing the case in Florida also of Grant Amata and his obsession with a camera girl named Sylvie. Did he kill his family over her? That is Blake Turpin talking about the accessibility of the rounds for a gun that was allegedly used to kill the mom, the dad, and Cody, the brother, allegedly by Grant Amata. Now, I'd like to bring my guest in because there's a scientific question we have here that I've been dying to talk to. This morning, this man testified. His name is Richard Ruth. That is our screenshot. I'm not violating any copyright here. All right. He talked about that, in his opinion, the gun that Grant had was the gun that killed Cody and the family. Now, Jason, I taught on this. You know my opinion about this. Is there a scientific proof that indeed one gun can be matched through its bullets and its cartridges, through its the thing you use to shoot people, okay, to a specific weapon?
Absolutely not. The science has not reached the level of certainty that we as lawyers and juries and judges should expect when allowing an expert to come in and give an opinion, as detrimental as that. What the state is trying to do is to say that they have recovered bullets from these three bodies and that they can conclusively assure the jury that all three of those bullets were fired from the same gun. However, the foundation of that man's opinion is not based on the same science that exists for fingerprint evidence, for DNA evidence. It hasn't gotten there yet.
And then
so
Joe Scott Morgan, taking what Jason just said, if it's not there, does it mislead the jury to say that indeed that's the gun? Or should the jury just put it in a scheme of relying on other evidence, but not with the certainty that the state wants to give it?
Yeah, unfortunately, many people just believe anybody that shows up in a white lab coat, and that's the problem many times. Listen, firearm science, ballistic science is highly subjective in the sense that there is not, when you're in basic science classes, you're learning, in statistics classes even, you're learning qualitative findings versus quantitative findings. Firearms examination is a quantitative finding. You cannot go back and apply a number to it. If we were doing drug testing, Linda, or DNA testing, we can give you a specific quantifier. That means
Joe,
a number.
hold that thought, because we're going to come up to a hard break right now. When we come back, we'll discuss more of this and the Rosenbaum trial in Georgia. Stay tuned.